right, we are live. Hello everyone. Let me know you can see me, hear me in the chat. So this is pretty much exactly where we left off last time. Basically had a couple failing tests, and it looked like that was really based on the fact that we were using SQLite. So we had run the test generator on Workshops by JMac, and again, this is a shift that basically analyzes your routes and then intelligently will generate tests based on those. So it generates all the model factories, it generates HTTP tests for your controllers, again based on your route definitions. So if it sees things like the auth middleware being used on a route, it knows to set up a fake user, build the request. It uses the HTTP method out of the, again, route list response to, set all that stubbing up for you. Otherwise would take, depending on the size of your application, of course, this number grows exponentially. But I mean, it definitely take you a couple hours to set that up, even for the most basic project. I mean, just writing that for every request you want to make. So having that all stubbed out, and then also kind of a roadmap of the areas in which you would want to test. Again, all of this can be done manually with artisan commands with some packages out there, but this is just a nice way to bundle all that up, do it for you in one go, ran in, as we saw, just under a minute, and now we have all sorts of tests that we can run. So I'm running these, and we do have a couple failures, and it seems to be around using SQLite. So SQLite has some drawbacks. A lot of people don't like to use it because that's not what they use in production, so they want to mirror that environment. Totally agree with that. I tend to prefer a fast test time locally. So locally in my development environments, I still actually use SQLite a lot, but then on the CI build, for example, on GitHub, I will have a workflow using GitHub Actions that will test with MySQL, which is what I use in production. And again, it tends to be just a little bit faster to use SQLite from what I've seen anecdotally, to use it still. So let's spend just a minute and see if we can resolve this with some tricks that I've learned over the years. So let's bring up Workshops by JMac, and let's start taking a look at this. So it's Workshop Controller Test, and my guess is all of these failures that we're getting right now are related to the fact that it could not properly migrate the database. And it's because of these multiple columns. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of jump over into migrations, and let's just take a look for drop column. And if there's, dozens of these, more than one, then I probably don't want to waste the time trying to make this work with SQLite. Let's just go ahead and adopt a MySQL database. But if it's just one or two migrations, then I think we can break it up. It's actually a lot here. Okay, so this one just has one, that's fine, but there's two migrations that drop multiple columns. So let's fix this. What we can do is actually a little trick I've learned to break it up for SQLite is you can actually just replicate this and put it in its own transaction, or its own table schema, which actually makes it a separate query, and that plays us a little bit past where we were before. So let me do this with the other one as well. So we have just as many drop columns, but now they're kind of split up between multiple things. So we messed with update attendees already, or here's another one. So we can do the same, well, we don't have to worry about down actually, because we're never really going down, so that's even less we have to mess with. So update attendees is already fixed. Okay, workshops, is this the down? This is down. So that one's probably irrelevant as well. So let's see if this fixes it. Still have a failure. All right. No such table workshops. Workshops. Okay, so it's still not able to find workshops Could not add non-null column with default value null. Okay, so this is probably just kind of an old school thing where I'm not referencing it as nullable. So let's fix that as well. So what was that? Update attendees. So we're adding workshop ID. So let's fix this workshop. And this is actually somewhat of a common thing. In old applications. Maybe you didn't have your migrations set up the right way. As we can see from the dates on here, this is earlier versions of the framework where, again, that may not have been required. The fastest thing we can do here is just tack on a nullable, if I can spell that right. All right, and let's run just this test. Kind of save ourselves a little bit of headache here. Which one is this? Or well, whatever. Let's just run them again. We may have to do this for multiple columns, so a little bit of a dance here. Let's see what it complains about next. Cannot all user ID. All right. I don't have that many migrations, so let's just fix a couple of these. I imagine that would probably be an issue on MySQL anyway, so I don't think these are worthless fixes per se. No such table workshops. There's less errors now. So what's wrong with workshops? We just have one failure now. No such table workshops. Which test is this? I'm wondering if this is maybe a test where it's missing like a refresh database trait or something. Where's the name of the trait? Test example test. Well, we definitely don't need that test anymore. So let's get rid of it. Let's see if that gets us back to a passing state. Well, not passing, but at least not in here. Okay, cool. So basically our whole issue here were just the migrations. So a couple things wrong here. First of all, these need to be nullable since they're being added after the fact. That is just an oversight in probably the way these were originally written. And then to get around that SQLite thing, I've just broken up that additional drop column that we had and moved it down. So the diff is a little bit strange there. It shows me adding these two lines, which I did, but we actually took this line from the original schema table and made it into a separate one to make SQLite happy since it's in a different query now. I'm hearing some stuff in the chat. Let's check it out. Let's see. I think I have in the past. Yeah. What I do from time to time is merge migration files. Yeah, that was something I wanted to look at. I know, like in Laravel 8 now that of course we've upgraded this and are running Laravel 8, it would be cool to kind of pack down all those migrations into kind of that dump file or whatever that they do now. I haven't used that yet, and it'd be cool to try. I'm curious if it would get around some of these issues. I imagine that nullable issue would still be an issue. So anyway, these are running now, so let's start tackling them. And again, this is what I would kind of expect out of the box with the test generator if my migrations weren't having those nullable issues from a long time ago. So let's start looking at the tests now. And I guess the easiest thing to do would probably just be to work down in order here. So let's take a look at our attendee controller, and we'll just kind of bring these up side by side. And I can't guarantee that I'll make it through all of these tests, but let's do the best we can here. So a couple things. First of all, we do have a register request here, and we look for a workshop. I'm surprised it didn't pull up a couple of these things. What does attendee register for workshop do? All right, it creates the user, registers a flash message, sends a mail, and then it redirects to that specific workshop. So I've got some kind of macro here we're going to have to take a look at. So this is actually pretty nice implementation and a pretty good push out for how we might want to test these. So let's take this off and let's focus just this test real quick. So let's filter equals, and we should definitely get some kind of fat failure here, of course. All right, cool. So we're just taking a look at that, and it actually ran. There must be another test with that name. So let's just limit it to this test file because we just have one test in there, one failure. So of course, we're not doing any of the redirection or anything like that. So first of all, let's backfill a test. Let's say test case, and then it uses or validates with a form request. All right, and this is just a little unit test kind of thing I like to do. So we can say this, use additional assertions, I believe, and then I always forget, assert action uses form request. Yeah, all right, and then the format here is the controller string, which will be this. Whoops, thanks PHP Storm. And that'll be class, and then the action is going to be store, and then the class that it should use will be this. So app http middleware that class. All right, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's not middleware, it's request, sorry. There we go. All right, so basically this controller action store is going to use that, and this just uses a little reflection. I like this because I've talked about it before a couple times on the live streams. I got a blog post about it. But the point is it's a little bit more of like a meta test, if you will. Basically, we're trusting Laravel to do the right thing if we have type hinted this. That's just the framework doing its job, which the framework's tested on its own, so it's not something we need to do. And now I know that if I have that linkage, that based on this register request, I can test it separately, just kind of independently, which is a little easier to do. Instead of writing HTTP tests over and over and over with all the different kind of invalid states, I can just make sure it's wired up and then test that on its own. So again, I've got a blog post about that. I find it a lot easier, a lot more straightforward. I don't think most people write all the tests for this failing validation. So they don't really have coverage there. And again, I'm not after 100% coverage, but it gives me the confidence I need by just writing one extra test. So, and I know it's covered now. Okay, so we definitely have to pass in a workshop. So let's move on here. Workshop is equal to workshop factory create. All right. So we definitely need to be a workshop, and we definitely have to be a user. Which user do we have to be? Attendee register. Okay, so we are authenticated. I'm surprised that the test generator didn't give me some acting as and stuff here. I'll have to look into that. But for now, let's just make our own. And actually, I wonder if the workshop factory, it shouldn't generate any kind of user. No, it's just a name and a description. Okay, so let's change this to acting as user, and then it's post route, and this takes workshop ID, which will be workshops ID. That should set up everything we need to send the post. Let's look at any other setup we might need to do. We're going to send a mail. So I want to do mail fake. So we're going to fake out the mail facade. That way we can check to make sure that it's sent. And in the meantime, let's handle some of these register bits. So we can say something like response assert session has registered. And what are we storing here? The workshop name. Registered should be workshop's name. And then what else can we do? We can assert a redirect. Or well, we already have assert OK, so let's do assert redirect. And that probably just goes, let's see what this macro is doing. If it's in the past, otherwise, oh, it redirects to workshop show. That's interesting. Otherwise, it redirects to workshop's index. My assumption is that when we make one of these, it's not in the past. So I'm going to say redirect to route workshop's index. Let's find out. Maybe they are generated in the past. If so, I think I'd like to do something like future here, where we just make a little state, but let's see what happens by default. Okay, what additional assertions can we perform? We can say mail assert sent this registration confirmation class. So we're going to make sure that fake received the right thing there. And we can beef this out a bit more here in just a minute. But for now, this is a decent enough test. And then finally, we can say this assert database, or is it database has? Database, no, it is assert. What is the assertion for the database has? Why is that not pulling up for me? This extends test case. Assert database has. That's strange. Strange it didn't autocomplete. Anyways, attendees, and then we would want to make sure workshop ID is what we want. So that's workshop ID, and then user ID is user ID. All right. So let's just recap this for a second. We've done our arrangement here to make sure that we have the properly faked out data that's required to make this request, as well as what we're going to want to kind of assert against. We've done some additional setup as well by mocking out or faking out the mail facade, so it doesn't actually send email, but instead kind of registers all the calls that are made, and we can make assertions against those later. Then we perform the request, and again, acting as the user, sending in all the data. Why is this highlighting? What is it not like about this? That's okay. And then we assert that we got redirected. We'll have to make sure that that's correct. We assert that the session flashed in some registered data, and then we assert that the mail was sent. We can do some additional checks here, like it was sent to the right user and it received the workshop. We can do all that. Let's just see if this works though. No such table users. Oh, we do not have the refresh database trait here. All right, let's try that again. All right, table users, what's wrong with you? Attendee controller. Why are you being a little turd? I wonder, it's interesting to me that Shift did not generate this class better, which is that, and the combination of it acting like it doesn't have the database is kind of starting to make me feel like something is missing here. Like there's some linkage that's wrong or something. Table users has no column named. Has table? One table users has no column name. Insert. That is strange. Column named name. What does our users table have? Maybe it generated the wrong, it just has an email. There is no name. Users factory. Let's drop name. Let's try that again. Okay, so failed asserting that two strings are equal. Workshop's localhost. So I know that this is, when I see something like this, it's normally a validation issue. Let's turn off let's turn off exception handling. So without, PHP Storm is not giving me good auto completion today. Without exception handling. What is going on here? It's very strange. Let's see what it complains about now. There we go. The given data was invalid. All right, what did I miss? It's kind of, I'm having one of those days where everything feels a little weird. We're running 861. I thought that Laravel added something recently that if you had a validation error, you got a better message here. What? Interesting. Okay, workshop ID is required. We should be passing workshop ID in, and then the workshop. Oh. Where? I wonder why this is subqueried. Why doesn't it just say where price? I don't know why that doesn't say where price is 0. Okay, my guess is that the workshop, I guess you don't have to register for a free workshop is kind of the point. See, this is why you gotta write tests when you write the code, because I don't remember some of these requirements. Okay, let's clean this up a bit. Let's go to the workshop factory and let's make a paid public function paid. And this will be, I think you just return this state and we can pass in something like paid, or not paid, sorry, price is, 10 bucks. Okay. Let's see if that, let's see if that pushes us past this invalid data bit. The given data was invalid. Which one's failing? Store returns an OK response. We should fix that as well. Oh, of course. I didn't mark it as paid. And let's change this. Store saves attendee, or registers attendee, I guess maybe we could say. Registers attendee and redirects to dashboard. So that's what it should be doing. Let's find out. The given data was invalid. Still invalid. Why are you invalid? Let's dump the response. Oh, it's always hard to get it's always hard to get the data, I think. Let's dump this data. Screw it, we'll just dump this. Or I think you can say this all. There we go. Let's see what it's getting. Maybe we're not passing something in like we think we are. So workshop ID is 1. Let's dump workshop to array on this side. Let's make sure it has a price. It has a price of 10 bucks. What's your issue here? Workshop exists, the ID should exist, and where price is 0. I did that backwards. So you have to, I guess you have to register for a free one. A paid one you don't register for because you're automatically registered when you purchase. Okay, so this should be free. Should the default be free? I think the default should be free then. So let's go fix that. What does this look like? It should be 0 already, so that's kind of strange that the given data was invalid. Oh, I guess price is null. Okay, so let's explicitly set the price. That makes sense. Workshop factory should have an explicitly set price of 0. All right. First test is always the hardest. All right, table attendees has no column named user ID. All right, what does attendee look like? Attendee has user ID and workshop ID. So did I just fat finger this? Attendees. Table attendees has no column to name user ID. You kidding me? Table attendees has no insert into attendees user ID workshop ID. What is going on here? Attendees. Create attendees table. Okay. Attendee. Update attendee table. Okay, so it's an unsigned user ID. There it is. What's wrong with this? Why aren't you getting there, friend? Dump here. It's definitely getting there. Table attendees has no... It's definitely getting there. That's strange. Let's do one more thing here. Let's do... I'm going to make an attendee, actually. And let's say workshop, or attendee. Attendee factory create to array. All right, and I think we can turn off the exception handling for now. Could be wrong. Unknown format integer. Attendee factory. Okay. So is something wrong with the way in which we actually mess with these? Integer is not right. Okay. Random digit not null. How about that? All right, let's see if it actually generates one of these now. Okay, so it's saying the same thing. It does not know. How does attendees not have that? What am I missing that's so straightforward here? It's always something tiny. This is why I shouldn't stream first thing in the morning. Okay. What's wrong with you, good old attendee class? The attendees, we have our database getting set up, and we are definitely running the migrations. There's an unsigned big integer, workshop ID. So, a couple things I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head. I wonder if for some reason like SQLite isn't liking this combination, so it's like not running this migration. Although it said here, like maybe it's silently failing. I know it sounds crazy, but I've seen SQLite do something like that before. I'm gonna change this to an ID column just real quick, just to kind of invalidate that theory. Okay, cannot add primary key column. All right, so I think it's foreign ID, or foreign is what we're trying to say. Yeah, foreign ID. We don't want those to be primary keys, but they are foreign IDs. Let's see if this does anything different. Yeah, it still doesn't like it, so it's not that. Workshop, inserting in attendees workshop. I don't understand that. I don't understand why this is being a jerk about the attendees. Attendees. Did I like spell something wrong? I mean, the model doesn't have anything spelled wrong, so it's not that. This is one of those like stupid little bits. Yeah, you're right. I could do that. Let's try that just for giggles. Let's bring this over. Yeah. Let's delete this just temporarily. And then let's bring in attendees, and they're not with email anymore. They'll be that. And then I think I dropped the Stripe ID and the email address. And then these wouldn't need to be nullable anymore. All right, so let's put this all in one migration per Adrian's bit. Yeah, exactly. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to... Huh, that's strange. Okay. That's interesting that... Yeah, that was going to be my next thing, was just switch to MySQL and see like what, if it played on. Okay, this worked better. I wonder if that drop column combo again was like somehow silently not. Again, I've seen SQLite do stuff like that before, where like it just kind of silently failed. Very annoying. All right, let's turn off without exception handling again. So without exception handling, where is my auto completion? So annoying. All right, why are we getting a 500? What's wrong with you now? Call to member function add hours on null. Where do you do that? In the workshop model, okay? So let's go check out workshop. Where are we doing add hours? My guess is because we didn't set a time, yes. So in the workshop factory, we also need to do some kind of held at, and let's just make it like today. And let's see if that, we might make it tomorrow actually. Okay, so this is making it in the past. So I think what we want to do is maybe something like now add week. So the default, this is kind of where you have to make choices when you're testing is, you know, what is your default state of a model, right? And so for workshop, what is our default state? Like, do we want it to be paid and in the future? Do we want it to be past and free? You know, what is the default? What I would normally choose is whatever is kind of the most commonly used. And I think the most common scenario is a free workshop that is in the future. So that's going to be my default state. So let's, now that we kind of made that decision, align this test the way we want. Okay, good. So everything passes now. Let's get rid of our crappiness. So let's get rid of without exception handling. Let's get rid of this extra bit here. And let's get rid of the dumping of that on the other side. So I wanted to do two more things with this, and then we're going to try to write one more test just to make things a bit smoother. So first thing I want to do is add a closure here. So let's make this a function, and we should get the mail. And in this case, I want to return mail has to, this will be the user's email, and mail also got the workshop is the workshop that we are using. I'm going to close down the implementation over here just for a little more screen space. So let's bring in user and let's bring in workshop, and this should fail now. Okay, so cannot access private property. So that is just a quick change here. The easiest thing to do is just make these public to make sure that it came across the way we want. So let's run this again, and we should hopefully be back to green. And we are, great. And then there was one more thing that we weren't sure about, or we could tighten up. And I think it was where we were being redirected to, but now that we know that default state, that's kind of a moot point. So I do feel pretty good about this test now. We're pretty thoroughly testing, you know, again, that we're setting up a workshop and we're able to register that attendee. So let's look at maybe something else. This one should be a really quick win. Let's just bring up workshops equal to workshop factory and then create. And I think we can say like times like 3 or something here. Let's bring that in. All right, and then assert view has workshops, and we could do something like assert C workshops. Can we dereference these? I think we can dereference these, right? Or we have to do like get like 0 or something. And then name, I think. What is on the home page? Let's take a look. Workshops by JMac. Do we have the descriptions? They would be underneath, but let's just check for the names for now. Let's try this. I think they're keyed by ID, unfortunately. But let's see what happens. I'm going to copy this test. I just closed PHP Storm. PHP Storm. Pluck name. Yeah, I could pluck name and then pull out each individual name, like for the names. I wasn't sure if I wanted to test the description as well, though, so that's the only reason I wasn't jumping to that. Oh, assert C does take an array. Nice. Well, before we break this, let's see if this works. Okay, so again, use refresh database. All right, cool. That should fix our non-database issue. Let's see if this passes. Yeah, this is another really annoying SQLite difference. You can't compare those two objects exactly the same because like some of their metadata like isn't built out. So first of all, like the integers are wrong, but then also like the table, for whatever reason, it doesn't like pre-populate that. You have to like refresh the workshops or something. It's really annoying. It's another nuisance of SQLite. Yeah, you can't do it on the collection either. I think you gotta say like each. It like it forces it to re-query it, which I think ties it up a little. Yeah, and see now it's I feel like it should do, like Laravel should do a better job of this. I think I opened an issue before, but it's not like all the time. And there's ways around it, like if you cast and do certain things. So it's just comparing those workshops is like a little bit annoying. I forgot there's a hack for it. Let's get this side working though real quick. So let's try that pluck bit here. So let's do workshops pluck name, and let's see that array thing like happen. Really cool. Whoops. Let's take those away. Let's see if this works at least. All right, apparently not. Is it not name that shows up there? All right, failed asserting that contains, oh, I think you have to false this. Why are those quoted? I don't think you can pass assert C in array. Oh, it escapes it. Huh. For each values. No, you can't pass in an array. Why is it trying to look? Why is it trying to look for the whole thing as an array? Do you have to like to array this? That's that's another like Laravel oddity. Why? That should, I feel like with the collections being a first-class citizen in Laravel, like it should handle if this is a collection to like undo that. That's kind of lame. Yeah, definitely not trying to harp on Laravel. Okay, so that it wasn't that. It was more the fact that it was an array. It wasn't an escaping issue. Yeah, definitely not harping on Laravel. I will say though, I think the testing layer within Laravel still is an area that because unfortunately a lot of people are not testing, they're not pushing the boundaries on things like this, and so some of these like additional quality of life improvements, just haven't been made yet. So that's something I'll write down and take a quick peek at. So what time is it here? All right, I think I have just a few more minutes. Let's try to take a look at one more of these. Let's take a look at this register controller. All right, store returns an OK response. So let's see what registration controller does. It looks like, oh, this, is that the way? Registration controller. Why do I have two of these? Registration controller. What does it do? Okay, it establishes the user and then it actually tries to make a stripe thing. That is going to take longer than 10 minutes. Let's look at the workshops controller. Oh, workshops controller test. Workshops controller. Let's bring this over here. So I'm not going to do the registration controller. That's definitely beyond what I have time for. Let's take a peek at this though. Okay. So one more thing I could do here real quick is we can actually say something like test show requires user to be registered. And this is another one of those assertions. So assert action uses middleware, and we can kind of just do the same thing here. We can say workshop controller class show uses the middleware register. I think this might just take, this may take that. Let's find out. So let's see this one in action. Okay, so yeah, it can take just the key name, so that's nice. Or wait, no, that was that. I'm skeptic again, having a skeptic morning. Filter equals, yeah, okay, well, no reason to be scared, it all works. All right, so let's finish this one out. Workshops order by held at get, so this is the index of all of them, and then it's going to return a view with some filterings of past, upcoming versus past workshops, and actually returns those in reverse. Ooh, that's fancy. Okay, so we are set up here, but we don't have any arrangement. So let's do this. Let's do future, or we'll call it the same thing, upcoming is equal to workshops factory create, and then we could do something like times, same thing, we'll just do like 3 here, and then we'll do the same thing, not workshops, workshop. And we'll do the same thing here of past, and we'll make sure that this is past. And let's go set that up. Not that. Not that either. You used to be able to click through those. Let's set up a past workshop. So this is going to be held at past, and this will be now sub days, and let's just do like this faker random digit not null. So we just get a little bit of variance there on like how long ago they were. So let's try that. Okay, now we know, unfortunately, that this is probably not going to be happy. I'm going to do some research on that again and refresh my memory on how to make these work. But in our case, we're probably going to want to do something a bit fancier with these anyway, because it's already kind of filtering these. So the past ones should be the past. That's a fine little filter. And then this filtering by past, but then it puts them in reverse order. So this could kind of be like reverse. We could do something like that here. So it's going to automatically order these, but then it's going to flip the order to make them the most recent in reverse. And then we don't do anything else. It already generated the view, assert OK, so that should all be fine. Let's go ahead and write this for show as well. So down here on show, we can bring in user. So the user factory create. Whoops. And let's bring in user. And let's drop the workshop. And we're going to need to do an acting as user. Let's just bring that down a line, nice and pretty. And then we actually probably don't need to quote that. Assert OK, assert view is, assert workshop is workshop, and assert user is user. And there should be no more additional assertions, and we killed that. So let's see if, not that, let's see if these, not that either. Let's see if these are passing. I heard some chat. Let's see what's going on. Instead of running it on each, you could run fresh on the collection itself. No, we tried to run it on the collection itself earlier and it didn't work. The issue is that SQLite treats all types of strings. Yeah, that's part of it. It's not all of it. Okay, so we're getting a 301, and then down here we're getting a 403 because we're not registered. Ew. So we would need to say something like attendee create user. So it'd be nice to have a little helper method for that. We could write that separately if we were doing this a lot, but for now we can just use Eloquent directly and say user ID and then workshop ID is workshop ID. And let's put that back together. All right, let's see if this one, the show I would expect should pass. And it does. Okay, so now it's just index, and we're getting redirected on our index page. Why are we getting redirected on our index page? Probably because you have to be a user here as well, because you're on the logged in page. So I'm surprised, again, that the test generator did not sniff that out. Let's go check our routes file. Maybe there's Yeah, see, you're behind auth, so it should have sniffed that out. That's interesting that it did not. Anyway, Jess and I are actually giving the test generator some love, so we'll take a look at why those might not have been registered the way we thought. Let's see if this passes now. Okay, so yeah, Adrian, okay, so here it is. It is a part of it is the integers versus strings part of it. But it's also other things too, like this recently created is not getting toggled correctly. And then also the table names are not getting populated correctly. And again, this is only an SQLite thing. There's definitely a bug under the covers. This has been here since, you know, again, probably like 5.8. I remember seeing this when I was working on Confident Laravel. You can tweak this a little bit by saying, you know, upcoming. And again, you can't just say refresh. I'll show you again. We tried this earlier, but I don't think it worked. I don't think you can call refresh on a collection. Yeah, there's no refresh on an Eloquent collection. But we can use higher order and say each. And when we do this, it does clean up some of those typecast issues. But now you still have this recently created and the table name still being broken. So again, it's just a little strange that for some reason SQLite doesn't seem to populate those fields correctly. So again, another oddity. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a bug. Oh, fresh. Yeah, you're right. Fresh may be the workaround. Sorry. All right, let's see if we're just getting the casting issues now, and if we are, then those, yeah, see, you're still getting the table name issue, but to your point, let's put it on the whole collection. All right, so definitely the casting issues. Yeah, you're still getting recently created, you're still getting the workshop table name. So yeah, the code you are mentioning does work. You can call fresh on the collection itself, but the point still remains, Laravel isn't properly building out these collections the same way it does from a testing perspective. So for whatever reason, the factory, it's not Laravel, it's the factory creation, and even a fresh call on that factory creation, for whatever reason for SQLite is not populating certain bits of information the same way it does when you query SQLite through Eloquent within your application. So again, I'm not sure if that's a testing layer thing, if it's a factory thing, if it's a SQLite thing, or all of the above. But it is a little bit annoying that it's not kind of setting those up. There is a way around it. I just have to remember what it was. So anyway, we will stop the stream there. Let's kind of just run all these. Of course, we're going to have this failure. So we do have this one failure that we're still working on. So logically it's correct, but we're going to have to work around being able to kind of check that data in a different way. But we were able to work through probably half those tests. The biggest one, of course, is going to be this registration controller because it's interacting with Stripe. So again, I may do a live stream next week on that. We'll see. But this is something I talk about a lot in Confident Laravel. I've got a blog post on it as well. There's a lot of resource out there where I talk about basically pushing that out to the boundary and testing Stripe through like a payment gateway approach. So if you're really interested in that, definitely check those blog posts, check out Confident Laravel. Again, I may live stream this if I come back to finishing this up, but I think what I'd rather spend my time on is revisiting the test generator to see some of the nuance in here of why it didn't generate some of the user factory and the acting as assertions the way I would have expected it to. I know it did on some of these, but not others, and so I'd like to find that out. And if I figure out what's going on with this SQL thing or remember it, I will tweet about that as well. So thank you all for joining live, and I will see everyone next time.